Johann Gustav Nock Wickell was born in December 1851. He was the son of a successful businessman and a real estate broker. He lost both his parents by the age of 15, and he got married to Anne Berg, who was a renowned feminist. He studied mathematics and physics at the University of Uppsala, and he died in 1926. Wickell was a leading Swedish economist. He worked as a lecturer at Uppsala University and Lund University. There he made provocative lectures on the causes of prostitution, drunkenness, poverty, and overpopulation. The young Wickell advocated for birth control as the cure for all these social issues. He was part of the Stockholm School of Economics, and he rejected Marx and Marxism. He was more of a synthesizer. By this, it meant that he did not create any economic theories. His integration and refinement of existing macroeconomic theories helped Wickell gain the recognition of the economist of economists. He was very smart and completed his first degree in 2 years, which was a degree in mathematics, and he completed a 4-year degree in law in just 2 years, and he had a doctorate in mathematics all by the year of 1885. He then went on to Vienna, where he was taught by Kamuanga, who was a leading Austrian economic. Wickell inspired the Stockholm School of Economics, of which he later became a part of. It was referred to as a loosely organized group of Swedish economists that worked together. They supported the theory of saving and investment, which was developed by Wickell, and the Stockholm School of Economics had come to the same conclusion in the theory of demand and supply as John Maynard Keynes. Wickell's economic contribution would go on to influence Keynesian and Austrian school of economic thought. In 1986, he published studies in the theory of public finance and applied the ideas of marginalism to progressive taxation, public goods, and other aspects of public policy, attracting considerably more interest. He was influenced by Leon Walras from the Lausanne School, Eugene von Bohm-Bawerk from the Austrian School, and David Ricardo. He analyzed and praised the Austrian theory of capital, which was elaborated by Eugene von Bohm. He hoped to create a synthesis of three theoretical visions of the economy. Wickell also laid out marginal productivity theory, the theory that payment to each factor of production equals the factor's marginal product. He was not the first one to lay down the theory of marginal productivity. Wickell presented a far simpler and more robust demonstration of the principle of marginal productivity. Economists such as Philip Wicksteed, Enrico Barone, and John Bates Clark had already elaborated this theory, but Wickell's exposition of it was just much superior. Wickell's theory of cumulative process of inflation was the first decisive attempt at the idea of money as a veil, which was similar to Say's law. Additionally, Wickell contributed to Ricardo's income distribution theory by concluding that even a non-confined economy was not destined to equalize wealth as some of Wickell's predecessors had predicted. Instead, Wickell stated that wealth created by growth would be distributed to those who had wealth in the first place. Wickell used this and the theories of marginalism to defend government intervention to improve national welfare. Wickell also concluded that Bohm-Bawerk's ideas of roundaboutness did not make any sense. He, however, agreed with Irving Fisher that weighting was sufficient explanation for interest rates. Wickell's most important work was his theory of interest, which was published in 1898. Wickell was best known for this theory. It was the theory of interest and prices. His contribution to the field is now called microeconomics. Wickell created the term natural rate of interest, which he defined as interest rate reaches compatible with stable price level. If the interest rate falls short of the natural rate, inflation is likely to arise. If the interest rate exceeds the natural rate, this will tend to produce deflation. An interest rate that coincides with the natural rate ensures equilibrium in the commodity market and produces price level stability. This theory was adopted and expanded upon by the Austrian school, which Wickell heavily influenced, which theorized that an economic boom happened when the spot interest rate fell below the natural, unhampered money market rate. In his book and in his 1906 lecture in political economy, Wickell stated his version of the quantity theory of money. The standard view of the quantity theory before Wickell stated that an increase in the money supply has a direct effect on prices, which meant more money chasing the same amount of goods. Wickell focused on the indirect effect. In elaborating this effect, Wickell distinguished between the real rate of return on your capital and the actual market rate of interest. He argued that if the banks reduced the rate of interest below the real rate of return on capital, the amount of loan capital demanded would increase and the amount of savings supplied would fall. Investment which equaled savings before the interest rate fell would exceed saving at low rate. The increase in investment would increase overall spending, thus driving up prices. This cumulative process of inflation would stop only when the bank's reverse had fallen to their legal or desired limit, which was even higher. The cumulative process can also be explained in simpler terms. It implied that if the natural rate of interest was not equal to the interest rate on loans, investment demand and savings will differ. If the interest rate is beneath the natural rate, an economic expansion occurs and prices will rise. This created the theory of endogenous money, which stated that money was created by internal workings of the economy rather than external factors. Wickell's theory claims, indeed, that increase in the supply of money leads to rise in prices level, but the original increase in endogenous created by the relative conditions of the financial and real sectors. With the existence of credit money, Wickell argued, two interest rates prevail, the natural rate and the money rate. The natural rate is the return on capital or the real profit rate. It can be roughly considered to be equivalent to the marginal product of new capital. The money rate in turn is the loan rate, an entirely financial construction. Credit then is perceived quite appropriately as money. Banks provided credit after all by creating deposits upon which borrowers can draw. Since deposit constitutes part of real money balances, therefore the bank can in essence create money. The Austrian school expanded Wickell's theory by forming the theory of business cycle based on central bank policy. Changes in the level of money in the economy would shift the market rate of exchange in some way relative to natural rate, and thus trigger a change in the relative proportion of production of consumer goods to investment, which will ultimately result in economic correction or recession, in which the proportion of production of consumption goods to investment in the economy is pushed back towards the level that the natural rate of interest would result in. The cumulative process was the leading theory of business cycle until John Maynard Keynes's The General Theory of Employment, Interest and Money. Wickell's theory would be a strong influence in Keynes's idea of growth and recession, and in Gunn Myrdal's key concept circular cumulative causation, and also in Joseph Schumpeter's creative destruction theory of the business cycle.